Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's committee meetings. I declare the meeting open at 6:03 p.m. The committee meetings will run consecutively, and there will be a slight delay between each committee as the chairs and managers of each committee change over. The order of the meetings will be assets and infrastructure, followed by finance and governance, community and culture, and then environment and planning. If members of the community would like to speak on any of the items on the committee meeting agendas or on the council meeting agenda when they are published this week, they can register to speak at the public forum, which is now held on the third Monday of the month. And you have until 10 a.m. on the day of the public forum to submit your request to speak. Acknowledgement of country. I would like to acknowledge the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of all lands, waters and sky in the Georges River area. I pay my respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples who live, work and meet on these lands. Notice of live streaming of council meeting. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is being recorded for minute-taking purposes and is also being broadcast live to the public on Council's website, in accordance with Section 5 of Council's Code of Meeting Practice. The recording will be made available on Council's website. The Code of Meeting Practice, the order of business is as shown in the agenda, which will be made available. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is open. Doors to the meeting room are left open until the meeting moves into a closed confidential session, according to Section 14 of the Code of Meeting Practice. Only if the meeting moves into a closed confidential session will the public broadcasting of the meeting be suspended. Council's Code of Meeting Practice prohibits the electronic recording of meetings without the express permission of Council. Mobile phones must be turned to silent during the meeting. We will start our first committee meeting, and I will now hand over to Councillor Maud, the Chair of the Assets and Infrastructure Committee.
Thank you, Mayor Borg. Welcome to tonight's committee meeting. I declare the meeting over. Start again. Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Assets and Infrastructure Committee. I declare the meeting open at 6:05 p.m. Apologies. There are no apologies, or do I have an apology? Yeah. No apology. Okay. Can I please have a motion? Oh, sorry, that's my audio visual.
Yep.
Okay. I have a request this evening that from Deputy Mayor Stratacopoulos to attend the meeting remotely via audio-visual link be accepted due to unforeseen medical reasons. Councillor Stratacopoulos has provided a statutory declaration to support this request. Can I call for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Liu and seconded by Councillor Dmowski. All those in favour, say aye. All those against? I declare the motion carried. Disclosures of interest. The disclosures of interest appear on the screen. The Mayor, Councillor Borg and myself have disclosed a pecuniary interest in ASS 007-26 and ASS 008-26 and FRMCC 002-26, and we will need to leave the chamber for discussion and vote on these items. An alternative chair will be elected. Do any councillors have any interest to declare? Councillor Jamieson?
I think I put it, I stuffed it up a bit, but I have non-pecuniary, non-significant interest, just that my property was previously in the flood study to be tagged, and it's not the case anymore.
And you've provided a disclosure. They're all on the screen. Okay, thank you. Confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting, ASS 006-26. Committee meeting held on the 9th of March 2026. Report of the Assets and Infrastructure meeting. Can I call for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Lansbury. Seconded by Councillor Liu. Do any councillors have any questions? If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favour say aye. Against? I declare the motion carried. Can I call for a procedural motion? Election of an alternate chairperson, please. That the Assets and Infrastructure Committee chairperson, I have declared as the Assets and Infrastructure Committee chairperson, I have declared a pecuniary interest in items ASS 007-26 Blakehurst and Cobra Bay Wards Overland Flow and Flood Study. Also ASS 008-26 FRM CC 002-26, a report within the Floodplain Risk Management Committee. Update on the Blakehurst Ward and Cobra Bay Ward flood study for tonight's meeting. A vote will be taken of the councillors present to elect an alternative chairperson for these items. Can I call for a nomination, please?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Jamieson, who's the chair of the Flood Committee, to acting chair for those two items.
Can I call for a mover? Councillor Borg. And Councillor Liu, second. Okay. I declare the motion carries. So, yes, I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare the motion carried. Okay. Councillor Jamieson, you'll take the chair.
Yep. ASS 007-26 Blakehurst and Cogger Wards Overland Flow Flood Study. If we could have someone speaking on that, please.
Through you, Chair. This report is basically just mirroring the report that was presented at the Floodplain Risk Management Committee on the 18th of March. Just making all the councillors aware of the attachments as per that recommendation, that we receive a note of the attached final draft of the Blakehurst Cobra Bay Ward Overland Flood Study. Delegate the authority to the General Manager to make minor modifications to any numerical to interpretation formatting errors if required to the final flood study, endorse the inclusion of the required legal notation on 10.7 planning certificates for identified properties, and publish the adopted flood study report on Council's website. So the report's been prepared by Kellogg Brown and Root in partnership with Council. This process, the study was exhibited between the 15th of September through to the 3rd of November. The final draft report is now prepared and ready to be adopted by Council.
I just would like to say a few things. Has anybody got any other questions or to speak to it? No? So as chair of the Floodplain Risk Management Committee, I'm very pleased to support the adoption of the Blakehurst and Cobra Bay Ward Overland Flow Study. First, I want to commend the members of the Floodplain Risk Management Committee, and in particular Mr. Sarno, Council Senior Stormwater Assets Engineer, for leading what has been an extensive, rigorous and genuinely collaborative process. I acknowledge Ms. Angela Halco from the Department of Climate Change, Energy, Environment and Water, who highly commended both staff and the committee for delivering a thorough best practice study, particularly noting the strong level of collaboration and the numerous on-site inspections undertaken to ground truth and refine the modelling. This has not been a desktop exercise. Following public exhibition, there were multiple rounds of engagement, including direct discussions with affected residents and detailed on-site inspections across November and December. These inspections, combined with further technical review of modelling stormwater assets and topographical conditions, ensure the final study is both robust and reflective of real-world conditions. Importantly, community feedback has directly influenced the outcome. As a result of this process, we saw meaningful refinements to the flood tagging, including the removal of properties with negligible impact and a more precise application of hazard categories. This led to a significant reduction in affected properties, demonstrating that the process has been responsive, evidence-based and fair. I also want to commend Council's community engagement team for delivering an extensive, thorough and highly informative Your Say process. We know flood studies can sometimes be clouded by misinformation, which can understandably raise anxiety within the community. However, this process helped address that head on. The Your Say platform provided clear, accessible information supported by helpful FAQs, frequently asked questions. We saw strong engagement with project documents downloaded 810 times. The FAQ page accessed 261 times and 220 unique submissions received. That level of engagement reflects both community interest and confidence in the process. Adopting this study is an important step forward. It will inform planning, certification notations, guide future development controls, and importantly, feed into the next stage, the floodplain risk management study plan, where we will focus on identifying and prioritising mitigating measures. This is about getting the science right, listening to the community, and ensure we have a strong evidence-based foundation to manage flood risk now and into the future. I commend the report to the committee. So I'll put this motion forward. There's no questions. All those in, can I have a mover and a seconder? Sorry. Councillor Marnie and Councillor Lansbury. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare the motion carried. FRM CC 002-26, update on Blakehurst and Cogger Bay Wards flood study. Can I call for a mover and a seconder? Councillor Allison. Was that, and seconder, sorry, Councillor Lansbury. Any questions? I'll put the motion forward. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare the motion carried.
Next, we have ASS 008-26. I move all the officers' recommendations within the floodplain risk management committee meeting, with the exception of FRMCC 002-26, which was voted on separately. Next, we have the report of ASS 008-26, the report of floodplain of Guntupa.
Just call for it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Can I call for a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Liu. Seconded by Councillor Jameson. All those in favour, say aye.
Sorry, can I ask a question? Which one are we talking about? Is,
The local traffic.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
okay, so not the, how about the one?
This was the floodplain, FRMCC.
Is that
dash-
is that the Beverly Hills ones or not?
There's no Beverly Hills one in there.
Beverly Hills one. Gloucester Road.
That's the. I can see it.
I think you missed it.
So it's this one.
Because in the Cobra Bay, what flood study?
Yeah, it's already
So
been
you want to
done.
answer that?
That's what I was up.
They're different. then. The last report adopted the flood study, so we're now adopting the rest of the minutes except for the flood study.
No, we did that. I did that. Yes. I
So
already did that. We're up to the local transport forum meeting held on 29th.
No, we can do this one.
Just pull the one item out of the flood committee report, which you
Yeah.
removed, on the other, removing the other item.
So that's two numbers. So that's numbers I can read out. That's
Okay. So
That's in.
the numbers that we have here are FRMCC 004-26, floodplain risk management committee update terms of reference and outcomes of EOI, community representative role, report by the senior assets engineer in stormwater, and FRMCC 005-26, update from the Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water, DCC EEW, report by the assets engineer stormwater.
Number three. Number three.
So is this one also? Yeah, so we have one more too. FRMCC 003-26, update on the feasibility study of the flood risk mitigation options at the Gloucester Road, Stony Creek Road intersection and Morgan Street, Gloucester Road intersection, Beverly Hills, report by the senior assets engineer stormwater. A call
Yeah,
for
so
mover.
sorry, so this one, so do we have a reporter? Sorry. Where's the reporter? I didn't find it. In the doc. Okay, so it should be in this document, in this committee report or council's report, the detail. Yeah.
This is the floodplain risk management committee. It's reported the same way that the traffic committee is reported, just with the recommendations.
The minutes.
The minutes.
Okay, so yeah, because this flood
Minutes only.
committee is only like it's not the full, councilors meeting.
You can attend.
Or can we? Yeah, yes, but can we have a
Councillor
report?
Lang, the report, the minutes of the floodplain risk management committee are an attachment to this assets and infrastructure report, in the same way that the local transport forum minutes get attached to the asset and infrastructure report. The minutes of the floodplain risk management committee are attached there. So if you want the agenda of that floodplain risk management committee report, you get it off the hub or the council website where it's publicly available, like you would for the agenda of the traffic committee. It's also available on the hub and the council's website publicly.
Can we have at least a report like what we did for the previous one? Just have it from the senior officer. Just give us a brief summary of what's the recommendation. And what's,
Can we?
Yeah.
yes, thank you. That would be great. Sorry.
Sorry, if I could just interject. What I think Councillor Wang is trying to do is, if the previous floodplain study has the same urgency as, if we could get the same sort of detail as we are from the other areas, I think that's what Councillor Wang is looking for. If there is a report that is on the hub, perhaps you can get a high-level summary so that it shows that immediacy and urgency that obviously is looking for, and I am too as part of my work.
Sure, I can give you an update, a brief overview of the reports that went to the Flood Risk Management Committee. So the Flood Risk Management Plan and Study has identified some risk mitigation options at Gloucester Road and Stony Creek Road intersection and the Morgan Street Gloucester Road intersection. They looked at 4 different options for reducing the flood risk there, and we've recommended that they do a full detailed analysis of the 2 viable options for that intersection. Sam, do you want to give an update on the terms of reference?
Yeah, so the report on the terms of reference was just noting that we'd obviously adopted the new terms of reference back at the council meeting in November of 2025. And we noted the resignation of the former committee representatives, Erin Seller, and acknowledged her contribution to the committee, and then welcomed the new community members to the committee.
Sorry, so I'm not after the terms of reference. I'm after the.
Yeah, so
Yeah, if you could. Yeah.
Sorry. So we went through, I think, with Beverly Hills, there's around Stony Creek Road is quite, and Morgan Street, there seems to be a high risk area. And it went through a few proposals on which ones were actually worth looking at, and the cost effective ones, and which ones would actually significantly reduce the risk or the amount of rainfall there is. So they went through a few options. And which one is actually worth pursuing and going through the next step. So there's no actually talking about it. We're up to the mitigating stage for Beverly Hills floodplain. So it's different to the Blakehurst one is actually starting from, like, we've just finalised it and we'll start going into the mitigating risks.
So, can I ask a few questions through your chair? Yeah. So what sort of community engagement have we done for this one? How many feedback did we get? Beverly Hills for this plan, for this study and mitigation.
So this is the flood risk management plan, which falls out of the flood study, which has been adopted. So the flood study identifies the areas of highest flood hazards across that catchment. And we've now got a grant to explore mitigation measures for some of those high risk areas, which is, this is one particular area. Until we can determine whether there is a feasible mitigation option for that area, we wouldn't be able to consult the community on potential upgrades, because we haven't identified whether there is a potential upgrade that could alleviate flooding at that site yet. It's going to involve lowering Stony Creek Road, so we need to negotiate with Transport for New South Wales to see if that's even an option before we can start consulting with the community.
Well, given the history of this, the whole Beverly Hills flood study and community, contentious feedback, I would like to have more thorough community engagement and consultation, given they have much deep knowledge and long history. Is that part of Morgan Street and Stony Creek Road at the intersection? So I personally have been there many times, talked to them many times, and for these mitigation measures, certainly their history and knowledge would help. So can I ask if it's possible for future engagement, or just hold up the decision before we engage the community?
The only decision we're making at the moment is to continue investigating the 2 potentially viable flood mitigation options in that area.
Yeah, so my concern is this may limit the options, and so that's given like the communities and all kinds of it. So the rest of the councillors are not explicitly engaged. So I think it's a bit premature to make a decision.
Thanks, Steve.
Sure.
Was that a question?
So that's just my opinion. I think it's premature to just lock down several options.
If not, okay, shall we move on? So we've moved it. Right,
Yes.
so we've moved it. Okay, so all those in favour say aye. All those against? Councillor Wang is against. The rest are all for. Yeah. I declare the motion carried. Now we have the report of the local transport forum meeting held on the 25th of March 2026, ASS 009-26. I call for a mover, Councillor Liu, and a seconder, Councillor Jamieson. Do any councillors have any questions? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favour say aye. All those against? I declare the motion carried. Next we have ASS 0110-26 Local Transport Forum Terms of Reference report by the Manager of Assets and Traffic. I call for mover, Councillor Liu. Moved by Councillor Liu, seconded by Councillor Mahoney. Do any councillors have any questions? If not, I will call for a vote. All in favour say aye. All those, anyone against? I declare the motion carried. Next we have ASS 011-26 Green Sporting Amenities Budget Update. I call for a mover, Councillor Lansbury. Seconded by Councillor Liu. Do any councillors have any questions? I'd like to, oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's a significant cost blowout.
Councillor Lansbury.
Yeah, so it's a major cost blowout. So I've actually got, there's a few questions here. I understand that it's needed by the community, but how did that original estimate, why is it so wrong going back to when that original estimate was first presented, that it's now doubled in cost?
Through you, Madam Chair. So the cost estimate was a historic one that was provided within the 4-year capital works program about 4 years ago. So there's been some building escalation processes. At the same time, we communicate at the development of the capital works program that until the detailed design and appropriate quantity surveyor has cost estimated a project, we don't know the final cost of a project. So through the 24-25 into 25-26 financial year, our architects have undertaken significant site geotechnical investigations, which identified some issues associated with current site conditions, which meant that additional excavation and retaining infrastructures were required. Those are outside the general scope of a building footprint, which means that cost escalation has gone up. Because of the time frame based on this going into a capital works program, and now there's obviously building increases in cost as well. So
That's why when the development of a capital works program is undertaken, we provide that sort of caveat that is a high level cost estimate until the final QS comes in from a contractor. So, yeah.
Okay, another question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I understand the design it's 100% complete. Is
Yes.
that right? So why is there still a 20% contingency required? Are there other risk factors there that we don't know about that?
So there are always risk factors associated with construction. Geotechnical investigations are essentially a point source where if we're looking at for instance, this table, and we put a geotech borehole in 3 locations, we actually only know the 3 locations. So until we, particularly because we don't do geotech under the existing footplate of the building, because we'd be putting a hole into a slab of a public amenity that's currently still under use, we don't know what infrastructure and what geotechnical investigation conditions we're going to experience until we excavate and so that sort of thing. So 20% contingency is identified within most of these sort of projects. It's a high risk contingency. That budget, when not used, which ideally it won't be used, will go back into the budget.
Okay.
It's just general construction.
Yeah, I'm just getting my head
No,
around it. Yeah.
please.
So another question. So with the scope,
Yes.
so what scope reductions or alternative designs has anything been considered to just pull that cost back to the original budget?
So the original budget was around a footprint that actually didn't include change rooms at the site. So that was something that was only identified when my team took that on to excavate and to execute the design process. So in terms of scope reductions, because we've been identified that this is a sporting facility that needed 2 change rooms, public amenities, and a canteen with storeroom, there's very little in terms of scope that we can actually reduce to get that cost down. It's the site conditions is also that sort of thing where the cost has elevated where it normally wouldn't on a site where retaining infrastructures and a flat site was where we are required to have DDA compliance and meet current standards. That means that all of these sites need ramps and infrastructure that wasn't necessarily there prior in the original concept.
Okay, all right. Without going into the actual costs, but it's significant. It's a double blowout. So what priorities are going to miss out as a result of this being blown out? By the figure that's there. So is council going to pull back on other projects because this cost for this amenity, this facility has blown out now?
I guess I can't speak to that. So the funding source for this is developer contributions. Which
is still community money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm responsible for the delivery of that. What comes in and out of the program, I guess you will determine at the development of next year's capital works program. At this point in time, it's been identified that the developer contributions has sufficient funding to execute this project without the impacts to other longer term projects. So that's what we've been identified through our working party process.
Okay, thank you.
Do any of the councillors have questions? I have a comment something I would like to say about it. So I'm really pleased to see this project continue to move forward. The amenities at the Green are in desperate need of an upgrade. Anyone who uses them, whether it's players, families or visitors, knows they're no longer fit for purpose. They've well and truly reached their end of life, and our community does deserve better. And I'll be honest, none of us like seeing project budgets increase. It's never an easy thing to support. But we also have to be realistic about the environment we're working in. Construction costs have been rising significantly, and that's something being felt across every level of government and every project. What's important is that we don't lose sight of why we're doing this. This is about delivering a facility that meets modern standards, something that is accessible, functional, and actually supports the way the space is used today, because the Green is such a well-used and valued space. These upgrades will allow it to be better utilised by the whole community. I also want to acknowledge the work staff have done seeking external funding. The grant application has been submitted is really important, and I'm hopeful it will be successful in helping to offset some of the cost pressures on this project. At the end of the day, this is an investment in our community, in better facilities, better experiences, and making sure our public spaces are something we can all be proud of. I'm very supportive of this update and the project continuing to progress. Can I call for a vote? All those in favour? All those against? I declare the motion carried. Next, we have ASS 012-26, Woodville Park Spatial Framework. Report by the Manager of Technical Services. Can I call for a mover, please? Councillor Liu. And seconded by Councillor Jemison. Do we have any questions? Any councillors have any questions?
So,
Councillor Wayne?
yeah, so can I ask what's the final plans like? Because I received lots of feedback from the community, but this is sorry. Okay, thank you.
Call for a vote. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare the vote. Sorry, did I hear someone? That's an aye. Okay, that's unanimous. I declare the motion carried. Next, we have ASS 013-26, Draft Penshurst Town Centre Plan, Public Domain Plan, report by Strategic Placemaking Specialist. I call for a mover, Councillor Jemison. Moved by Councillor Jemison, seconded by Councillor Marnie. Do any councillors have questions? Oh, sorry. Can I get an overview from the manager? Thank you.
Yeah, just a real quick one. So I guess the body of the report just outlines the chronological work done to date so far. So effectively going back to when the original council resolution was made on the 3rd of June 2024, we've conducted analysis of urban design work using Complete Streets approach to develop a public domain plan. Based on this, a plan approach for coordinated improvements to movement, management and transport infrastructure has been developed. This looks at key improvements to pedestrian infrastructure, new infrastructure to further promote public safety, greenery as part of the streetscaping, improvements to aesthetics and public buildings, gardens and spaces, and suitable street furniture improvements and additions throughout Mortdale. Recently, there was a sorry, lost my place. There was a focus group conducted for the draft Penshurst Town Centre Public Domain Plan. As part of the focus group, we invited stakeholders to attend council to provide their feedback on the study, as well as reaching out to Transport for New South Wales for their comment as well. We've now made further refinements on the draft public domain plan, and we're now looking to move to a stage where we're ready for broader community and stakeholder feedback. The draft public domain plan is attached in the separate attachment, page 238. These will be the set of plans that will be shared with the community.
Do any councillors have any questions? Councillor Jemison, you have a question?
Oh, can I speak to it?
Yes.
So, good evening, everyone. It is with great pleasure that we see the progression of the Penshurst Town Centre Public Domain Plan, an initiative that was first driven by the community in early 2024. Since then, we have already seen meaningful improvements on the ground. The resheeting of Connolly Street has been completed, and through efforts of Project Penshurst, supported by a grant from the Penshurst RSL, upgrades such as the tiling of public amenities have been delivered. Importantly, this all builds on a community-inspired motion supported by councillors in May, requesting that the General Manager prepare a comprehensive public domain plan focused on streetscape improvements, public safety enhancements within the Penshurst Town Centre. This plan includes improvements to pedestrian infrastructure, recognition and celebration of the suburb's heritage, new infrastructure to enhance public safety, including crossings, lighting and fencing, increased greenery and streetscape enhancements, improvements to the aesthetics of public buildings and public spaces, upgrades to street furniture and public amenities. There is more to come, including future works associated with the Tahi land, which is the land next to the train station. That used to be the nursery, which council staff continue to progress. Having seen some of the preliminary concepts, I am genuinely excited about what lies ahead. It is an ambitious and forward-thinking vision, and I commend the staff for their innovation and foresight. I look forward to seeing the community's feedback and continuing the journey of shaping a vibrant and safe Penshurst Town Centre. I would also like to congratulate the new asset team. The number of reports just in the asset and infrastructure paper is a testament on how much work is getting pushed through now. So thank you.
Do any other councillors have questions? Councillor Dmowski?
Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge the work done by Christina and her team, and also the council team. I just have a question about the Tahi land. I believe there's a signal box still in operation there, and the council is in negotiations with the New South Wales Transport about reclaiming this land. Is there any update on that, on those negotiations, or do you have a time frame?
So the latest update is that we're still in negotiations. We're anticipating that we'll come to presenting a draft agreement with Transport for New South Wales and the Landholding Department of Transport as well in June, and we're hoping to progress that forward. So we basically look to relocate that signal box that's there.
The meeting is in June, yeah?
We're hoping to present the draft agreement to Transport as part of the handover of the land in June. So, and then there'll be further works to obviously relocate the services that are there. And that'll progress obviously through the new financial year.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Are there any other questions? If not, I'll call for a vote. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare the motion carried. Next, we have ASS 014-26, Todd Park Sporting Facility Reconstruction and Community Engagement, report by the Manager of City Technical Services. I call for a mover. Councillor Jamieson. And seconded by Councillor Liu. Do any councillors have any questions? Councillor Lansbury.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I do have some questions. I do have some concerns, to be perfectly honest. We pulled this from the budget last year because we're concerned about the scale of it, and what is being proposed here to go at an exhibition is two very similar proposals, one being the 4 change room facility, the other being the 4 change room facility plus the gym. One of the concerns that we had over the last 12-18 months was the scale of what started to be just a replacement facility, similar in scale to what we'd be looking at the Green, of maybe 2 change rooms, has sort of morphed into something a lot bigger than I think some of us are comfortable with. And just we've got one of the other items we've got, I think it's in environment and planning, is the Cars Park master plan and plan of management, and the submissions that came back from the community in relation to that location was that they wanted something fairly low scale and enhancements, but they don't want, I have to use the word Taj Mahal because it's to do with the dragons. But we had the situation of pausing it while we would go away and sort of, you know, community consultation and things like that. The Dragons have come back. Now they want to do the gym again. I'm just concerned that, you know, unless there's something like a project agreement involved, they could walk away again and we'd be stuck with a facility that would have much difficulty financing. If we saw tonight in the item previously about the green with the cost involved since that project first came up, which I'm going to give credit to Councillor Mort for that, was really pushing the green project, and this one at Todd Park we've been pushing to support Congo Cougars. I'm concerned something of this scale would sideline them. It's actually not really questions, it's more comments, but perhaps Mr. Heath, you could address some of those concerns.
I might just make one comment. So we're not making, the only decision we're making in regards to this is seeking the community's feedback on these potential options. So there will be a decision in the future based on that feedback about the direction this project takes. But I think, and there is a lot of uncertainty, I suppose, at this point in time, and we are still working through how agreements would work with the Dragons, and their level of commitment to this at the moment is they're all in. But I think, you know, there will be a future report to council with the community sentiment and some more around what the Dragons are proposing.
And just once again, my concern is that the two options that are going at are really similar. There isn't much of a point of difference with them, as in, you know, a 2 to 3 change room facility and a 4 change room plus a gym. Like they're very similar and of quite a big scale, which I think this was the reason why we pulled it back a bit so that we could rethink something of that scale in that location. So, I mean, I can only assume, because I don't know for sure, that the reason that we're still sort of progressing, because it's a matter of progressing, if we're putting out for consultation, it's because the Dragons have come back and now they want to utilise that space. Well, my concern again would be, I get that it's going out on exhibition, but they're not very different options. You know, I would have thought it might have been useful to have an option of something of a smaller scale than a 4 change room facility, because even something like Charles Pirie, and I always go back to Charles Pirie because it was a really good example of something in the same area that's got, like, I think 3 change rooms plus a referee's room, and that's quite a big facility. So it would you know, it would encroach on a lot of the footprint of the area as well that's existing. And obviously it's bike track, and hopefully I think within the plan of management that's going to be repaired. But my concern, and it's not enough to not put it out on exhibition, is just a flag that I feel like we haven't actually addressed the concerns that we had 12 months ago almost. I know that was before your time, Bryce, too, as of the scale of it, because it was looking like it was going to be something that was going to be out of council's reach to finance something like this, unless we got really lucky with a lot of grant funding. But anyway, I'll leave it at that, and maybe you can give us a bit of a report then.
Maybe we should change it, Councillor Ansbury, or defer. Maybe we should change it or defer it, because I was of the same opinion. I don't. It's not my ward though, so maybe. Well, that's what you do.
Yeah. Can I make a comment, if I may, through the chair? In discussions that myself and some of the management team have had with the Dragons, if the gym is supported by the community and they are able to provide funding for the gym component, that would be contingent, I understand, on them wanting 4 change rooms in the sports amenity. If it falls over and the community completely opposes the gym, or they withdraw their support and don't want to provide funding, I guess I'll put a question to the director. Is there then scope that the replacement amenities facility can be scaled back to only 2 change rooms, which I think would be meeting the needs of the local facility of the Kogarah Cougars? If the Dragons are included with the gym making contributions, then I believe that the requirement is a 4 change rooms. So I guess the question is, in the future, if the gym is not pursued or not progressed, can the scale of the replacement like sports amenity be scaled back to the needs of just the Kogarah Cougars? That's the question.
Through the chair, yes, scope could be changed at that point. It's definitely something we can consider.
On that basis, I'm happy to put out the larger scale, see what the community says, and we make that decision in the future. That's my position.
I've got some comments on it too, because I think this is a really important report, and I know it's something the community has been waiting for a long time. Anyone who's been down to Todd Park can see that the current facilities just aren't up to scratch anymore. They've served the community well over the years, but they're tired, outdated, and no longer meeting the needs of the people who use them every week. Todd Park means a lot to a lot of people, and yes, it is an important sporting field and key training base for St George District Rugby League representative teams, but it's also so much more than that. It's a much loved, passive, open space for the broader community. It's where families spend time, where people walk through around Cars Park, and where so many kids have learned to ride their bikes along the perimeter track. It's part of people's daily lives, set in such a beautiful part of our area, and that's why getting this right really matters. What I appreciate about this report is that it doesn't lock us into one outcome. Instead, it gives us two clear options, and importantly, puts the decisions back in the hands of the community. One option focuses on upgrading the existing facilities to better support local use. The other looks at going a step further, including a gym, to support the needs of representative players and the broader aspirations of District League. But at the end of the day, this just isn't about sport, it's about people. It's about the residents who live nearby, the families who use the park, and the players who train there week in, week out. Their voices matter, and it's only right that we take the time to listen to them. As the report outlines, if the community supports the larger option, it would also rely on a funding partnership with St George District Rugby League, which is an important part of making that vision possible. And I'm really pleased to support this going out to consultation. I encourage the community to have their say on this. Thank you. I will call for a vote. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare the motion carried. Next, we have ASS 015-26, Peakers Park Adventure Play Space Community Engagement Outcome and Concept Designs report by the Manager of Technical Services. I call for a mover. Moved by Councillor Mahoney and seconded by Councillor Demusky. Do any councillors have any questions? If not, I will call for a vote. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare the motion carried. Next, we have ASS 016-26, Endeavour Street Seawall Reconstruction Budget Update, report by Manager City Technical Services. I call for a mover.
I'll move that, Madam Chair.
Councillor Borg, Mayor Borg, seconded by Councillor Liu. Do any councillors have any questions? If not, I will call for a vote. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare the motion carried. So we didn't need to move into a confidential section. Yeah, I declare the meeting. Be there no further business on the assets and infrastructure papers, I will declare the meeting closed at 6:57 p.m.
Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Finance and Governance Committee meeting. I declare the meeting open at 7:01 p.m. There is an apology, isn't it? From Councillor Farrell? No. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, he's not. Yeah. So we don't need to do that. There were what? A request from Councillor Stratokopoulos to attend the meeting. Oh, that's probably thanks. That a request from Councillor Stratokopoulos to attend the meeting remotely via audio-visual link be accepted due to unforeseen medical reasons. Councillor Stratokopoulos has provided statutory declaration to support his request. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Councillor Marnie and a seconder. Councillor Demoski. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare the motion carried. Do we have any disclosures of interest? Don't believe we do. FINS 011-26, confirmation of the minutes of the Finance and Governance Committee held on the 9th of March. Can I call for a mover and a seconder? Councillor Lansbury and anyone? Councillor Mayoni, thank you. Oh, Councillor Mort. Do any councillors have any questions? If not, I will call for a vote. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare the motion carried. PIN 0112-26, Audit Risk and Improvement Committee minutes of meeting held 27th of November 2025, confirmed, and 5th of March 2025, unconfirmed. Can I have a call for a mover and a seconder? Councillor Marnie. And a seconder.
I'll second that, Madam Chair.
Councillor Mayor Borg. Does anybody have any questions? If not, I will call for a vote. All those in favour say aye. Anyone against? I declare the motion carried. FINS 013-26, investment report as at 28th of February 2026. Can I call for a mover and a seconder? Councillor Allison and Councillor Mort. Do any councillors have any questions? If not, I will call for a vote. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare the motion carried. FINS 014-26, revised related party disclosure policy. Can I call for a mover and a seconder? Councillor Liu and Councillor Marnie. Do any councillors have any questions? I will ask for, can you just briefly, if there's any changes?
Through the chair, this is an existing policy. It's minor amendments that have been updated just to reduce. There was quite a lot of content and jargon in the policy, so it's simplifying that for the reader, along with an updated fact sheet as well that was quite convoluted. So we've tried to streamline it for ease of read, but it stands. It's an existing process.
Anybody else have any questions? If not, I will call for a vote. All those in favour say aye. Against? I declare the motion carried. FIN 015-26, quarterly commercial property portfolio report period for period ending 31st of December 2025. Can I call for a mover and seconder? Councillor Mort and Councillor Demoski. Do any councillors have any questions? Could I ask for anything interesting?
Through the chair, it was no significant changes or, I guess, volatility from the previous quarter. It's trending as it has been. We're still keeping an eye and actively looking in the market for Humphreys Lane property, as that quite is a significant property that is vacant. Also, we've expanded the report to provide more updates on acquisition and disposal. So the Kulwala Street acquisition is trending well. With it's a voluntary agreement with the owner, and we're subject to exchange contract shortly. The Headley Street state government owned property, we're in discussions with the state government to look at opportunities, which would also have a further report to council to consider it. The disposal of 62 Ocean Street, Cogra, was a positive outcome, and it was well above the auction reserve. I think approximately $1 million over, so that was positive. And those funds that we receive will go into reinvestment via the childcare asset reserve as per the implementation of the early learning feasibility study. The disposal of Moore Park, Beverley Park, is also progressing as per a previous council resolution, though it's takes a bit longer given the classification of the land changes that are required. But other than that, that's an overview.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, I will call for a vote. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare the motion carried. FIN 016-26, project update and milestone completion at Cars Park Pool. Can I call for a mover and a seconder? Councillor Moore and Councillor Lowndes. No? Councillor Demoski. Do any councillors have any questions, anything to say? Yes, Councillor Moore.
Make some comments. Well, I'm really pleased to see the Cars Park Pool project continuing to progress and to have reached milestone 1. The completion of the planning approvals is a significant step forward, and it's great to see the strong work being done in partnership with the New South Wales Office of Sport to get us to this point. And thank you as well for these regular updates. They really help keep both council and our community informed as the project moves along. I know this project the community is really excited about, and it's something we've all been looking forward to seeing come to life. I'm especially looking forward to milestone 2 when we see construction commence and the vision for Cars Park Pool really start to take shape. It's great progress, and I'm really happy to support the recommendation. Thank you.
Councillor.
Would anybody else like to speak?
I just had a question, if I may, about milestone 2. That sort of comes up quite quickly in September, and it's quite a significant outlay. Can you just give us a little bit more information around that, please, Ms. Parker?
Through the chair, I'll have to throw that to the Director Assets and Infrastructure, and if you can just provide an update on the current status of the project control group and milestone 2, I believe the tender and how that's progressing.
The Cars Park Pool project's currently out to market to the quoted on by the 3 select tenderers. They're really that closes at the end of the month, so there really isn't an update until the end of the month in terms of construction schedule. But provided that they receive a complying tender, they're still aiming to have construction completed for the summer of 2027.
Do any councillors have any other questions? If not, I will call for a vote. All those in favour say aye. All those against? I declare the motion carried. There being no other business on the agenda, I declare the meeting closed at 7:09 p.m.
Good evening and welcome to the Community and Culture Committee meeting of Monday the 13th of April 2026. I'll declare the meeting open at 7:13 p.m. Now we have no apologies, but we do have a request to attend the meeting via audio-visual link. from the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Stratokopoulos, to attend remotely via audiovisual link due to unforeseen medical reasons, and Councillor Stratokopoulos has provided a stat deck to support his request. So can I call for a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Allison and seconded by Councillor Mort, I think. Okay, all those in favour, please say aye. Anyone against? Okay, we'll declare that one carried. Disclosures of interest. Do any councillors have any interest to declare for tonight? No. Okay, I'll take that as a no. The first item then on the agenda will be the confirmation of the minutes of the Community and Culture Committee meeting held on the 9th of March 2026. So I can call for a mover and a seconder. So it's moved by Councillor Liu and seconded by Councillor Mort. Do any councillors have any questions on the minutes? I'll take that as a no. Okay, well then I will call for the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Anyone against? Okay, we'll declare that one carried. The first item, well, the next item on the agenda is COM 013-26, the quarterly community property report of 1 January 26 to 31 March 26. If councillors have any questions, I will just call for a mover and a seconder, please. So it's moved by Councillor Liu and seconded by Councillor Mort. Do councillors have any questions at all of any of the council officers or the director? Okay, I'll take that as a no. If not, I'll call for the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Anyone against? Okay, we'll declare that one carried. The next item on the agenda is COM 014-26, the Disability Inclusion Action Plan 2026-2030 for public exhibition. And we will be getting a report from Manager Estelle Mark, but before we go to that report, I'll call for a mover and a seconder. So that is moved by Councillor Jamieson and seconded by Councillor Mort. Thank you. And I'll go to Ms. Mark for an overview. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this report seeks council endorsement of the draft Disability Inclusion Action Plan 2026 to 2030 for public exhibition as required under the New South Wales Disability Inclusion Act. So this is council's third DIAP and it builds on the current plan with a stronger focus on evolving community needs, including hidden disabilities such as mental health, autism, dementia, as well as culturally diverse experiences. This draft has been co-designed through extensive consultation with people with disabilities, carers, and service providers. We heard directly from over 130 community members, 43% of which were people with disability, and the process has been supported by the Physical Disability Council of New South Wales to ensure inclusion of best practice. Some key highlights include creating more inclusive places, including a flagship sensory inclusive play space, council leading by example in inclusive work experience and volunteering for people with disabilities, and also improving access to council information, including promoting the Log It, Fix It, so residents can easily report accessibility issues. So subject to your approval tonight, the draft will be publicly exhibited for at least 28 days with feedback reported back to council in June prior to final endorsement and submission to the Department of Communities and Justice by 30th of June 2026.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions for Ms. Mark? No? Okay. I just would like to say it looks like a lot of comprehensive consultation has gone into this, and it has progressed since the first iteration, I think, in 2022. Absolutely. So it's good to see. We'll put it out on exhibition, and no doubt there'll be people who may have been missed through the consultation process that may have something to add to that, and that will be considered. So councillors, this is being put out for, as Ms. Mark said, going on exhibition. So if there's no further questions, it's been moved by Councillor Jamieson and seconded by Councillor Mort. We'll put it to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Anyone against? Okay, we'll declare that one carried. The next item is COM 015-26, outgoing sponsorship for the Autism Community Network Gala Dinner. I will call for a mover and a seconder. So it's being moved by Councillor Mort and seconded by Councillor Liu. This is a fairly straightforward report, I think, but do councillors have any questions at all? Just for the benefit of councillors who may not be familiar with this, this is an annual event that happens usually around this time every year, sort of May, April, May every year. This year again, it's at Riverwood at the Congadora, I think. I think we're endorsing some support. What is it? I'm on the wrong.
7,500.
How much is it? Sorry? $7,500 to go towards this, which we've done annually, I think, for a number of years now. So if there's no further discussion, okay. I don't know what that was. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. A bit of a strange thing with you. But if there are no further questions, I'll call for a vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Anybody against? Thank you. We'll declare that one carried. Our next item is COM 016. Can you hear me now? Yep, it's working. Sort of dropping in and out. Sorry, everybody. This is COM 016-26, the Indoor Multi-Sport Stadium Feasibility Study, Funding and Project Direction. We do have an item in confidential for this, so if councillors want to discuss that, you know, because obviously things are in confidential, we would have to move into that. If we can talk in a general sense, we'll get a report from the director, Ms. Dodd. But before we go to that, I'll call for a mover and a seconder. So that's being moved by Councillor Mort and seconded by Councillor Dmowski. And just bearing in mind, if you have anything specifically confidential, we'll have to move into that. But if you can, we'll just hear a report from Ms. Dodd first and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair. So council allocated 120,000 in the 25-26 operational budget to undertake the feasibility study, which was part co-funded or 50-50 funded with Basketball New South Wales. So the study is being recommended to be delivered in 2 stages. Stage 1 as the strategic business case, and stage 2 would be subject to future council decision, and that would be a detailed concept design. So stage 1 is looking at locations and also includes that community engagement element, which I know that there has been various resolutions on this over the last few years, but we haven't ever got to that community engagement stage. So stage 1 would have that outlined. So council officers have outlined 3 options in the report and are recommending option 1, so to proceed with allocating additional funds so that stage 1 can be completed.
Thank you, Ms. Dodd. Councillors, do anybody have any questions? Does anyone have any questions, I should say?
Yes. No one else?
Councillor Plum?
Thank you. I think I applaud council and its work on it so far. I'm just curious to understand if there's any pushback. The tenders that came back obviously were fairly expensive, and obviously we are living in a difficult economic circumstance. Was there any visibility on why cost of labour, cost of all those costings are so high? Is there anything that we can do to move things along to make this all a bit more palatable moving forward, and to ensure that we can get the study the Basketball New South Wales deserves?
Through you, Madam Chair, I can't comment as to the cost of the tenders, but all 4 that have come back are above what was allocated in this budget. So if they're all in a similar ballpark, I can only say that it must be due to rising costs or an insufficient initial budget.
Thank you. Any further questions? I'd just like to make a couple of comments about this. This particular issue has been on Council's agenda for a number of years now, and we have Ray Barbie from St George Basketball Association in the gallery tonight. Welcome, Ray. I think it's really important that we continue to progress this, and I do share some of Councillor Punn's concerns about the cost involved. It would be an absolute tragedy if this was to fall over because we weren't able to get the business case off the ground. The recommendation tonight is approving some additional funding to keep progressing this, and I think we do need to keep progressing this. The report goes into a little bit more detail about the next stages, etc. And, I would encourage councillors to support this. If there's one particular sport in our LGA that I think has been underfunded, it would be basketball. And I mean that genuinely, not just because Ray's here tonight. There are plenty of other codes that have had lots of shiny new facilities opened in the last number of years since Georges River has been in existence. But this has been, I think Ray mentioned, on the agenda for about 20 years, going back to the former days of the former Hurstville Council. So we do really need to progress this. I think they would have to be one of the only sports that doesn't have a home, and therefore they have to utilise a number of facilities in the LGA, including the Aquatic Centre at Hurstville, Blakehurst High School, amongst many others. So I think this is another step forward. If we can, support this recommendation tonight, this will give them some certainty that council is serious about trying to find them a permanent home. And obviously, this is still the business case. It's not constructing it yet. That would be involving, budget allocations from council perhaps, or ideally grant funding. Federal or state grant funding would be my preferred option, of course. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. If there are no further questions, it's been moved by Councillor Mort and seconded by Councillor Demoski. So I'll call for the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Anyone against? Okay, declare that carried. Oh, and that's our final agenda item for tonight. Yeah. Which came up very quickly. Thank you. Thank you everyone for your attendance, and thank you to the staff for putting the papers together. And we'll declare the meeting closed at 7:25 p.m. Thank you.
Welcome to tonight's meeting of the Environment and Planning Committee. I declare the meeting open at 7:28 p.m. There are no apologies tonight. There's one request to attend the meeting by audio visual link. We have a request from Deputy Mayor Councillor Stratokopoulos to attend the meeting remotely via audio visual link, and that be accepted due to unforeseen circumstances, medical reasons. Councillor Stratokopoulos has provided a statutory declaration to support this request. Can I get a mover for that? Councillor Allison, and a seconder. Councillor Mort. Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Anybody against? Thank you. I declare that carried. Disclosure of interest. I have a disclosure from Councillor Jamieson, who's disclosed a non-significant non-pecuniary interest in ENV 01326, endorsement of Mortdale Local Centre planning for gateway determination and DCP amendment for public exhibition, for the reason she previously was required to disclose a special disclosure of interest. As there are no changes related to a property, there is no longer any pecuniary interest involved in endorsing the master plan and or the DCP. Councillor Jamieson will remain in the meeting and take part in the consideration of this item. Do any other councillors have any interest to declare? Okay, there's no other disclosures of interest. Next item is the confirmation of minutes of the previous meeting. which is ENV 0 to 126, confirmation of minutes of Environment Planning Committee meeting held on 9th of March 2026. Can I call for a move and seconder on that? Councillor Ellison, Councillor Lansbury. Are there any questions on the minutes? In that case, I call for a vote. All in favour, please say aye. Anybody against? Thank you. I declare that carried. The next item is ENV 01226, draft report local centre master plan endorsement for public exhibition. Could I get a move and second on that report, please? Councillor Allison, Councillor Lansbury, thank you. Before we go in discussion, Mr. Osti, who's our Manager of Strategic Planning, is going to give us an overview. Thank you.
Thank you, through the chair. Very briefly, the council back in 2024 resolved to adopt a staged approach to master planning 12 different growth precincts, and Riverwood was selected as priority given its strategic locations. We've been busily working away at it since then. We've completed preliminary consultation on this one with quite a comprehensive exhibition process, letters distributed to all affected landowners, emails sent to stakeholders, a dedicated Your Say page, newsletters, social media posts, newspaper adverts, 3 community workshops with quite decent attendance, all things considered, and an online survey. That's helped to inform and structure the draft master plan itself. Importantly, there's also supporting technical documents that provide the underpinnings for that draft master plan, being those there in the attachments. Attachment 2 is a very detailed background report. Attachment 3, preliminary engineering assessment. Attachment 4, a public domain plan going into some high level thoughts and technical ideas around what we can do with public domain in support with this density uplift. Attachment 5 talks about traffic issues, and then finally the early engagement outcomes report, which just details the outcomes of that exhibition process at the preliminary stage. Obviously, the main thing here is the master plan itself. What we're looking for is council endorsement to put it on public exhibition in its entirety, and then we'll report back to council with submissions received as well as any changes made as a result of community feedback, but also importantly any state agency feedback. Happy to take questions.
Thanks, Mr. Osti. Do any councillors have any questions?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I just have a question, and it's a really stupid question. Don't we normally have to send these to the department for Gateway before we put them on exhibition, or have I missed something?
No such thing as a stupid question. No, because it's a master plan. Planning proposals you do, but master plans, although best practice to engage with the state agencies, including planning, we don't have to. It's sort of a council-led process. But any planning proposal to implement the master plan, which is actually the Mortdale item for this committee, that does go through the department to get Gateway and then usually come back again for finalisation.
Do any other councillors have any questions or comments?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to make a comment that there's a huge amount of work involved here, and I think we've had a lot of commentary at this council about the importance of master planning and making sure that we can plan for increased development in our area. That commentary has been in response to the low and mid-rise housing policy that's been applied as a blanket policy across our LG. And I think when you look at the excellent reporting that is included here with the engineering assessment, looking at the infrastructure around flooding, stormwater, things like that, the public domain plans and the improvements there, as well as the transport and how that can accommodate the increased density. This is a great example of the master planning done well, and this reinforces the commentary that I think this council has had with raising concerns around the low and mid-rise housing policy. So I commend the staff and the consultant team who have worked on this master plan, and look forward to it going out to community for consultation.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Do any other councillors have questions? Councillor Wayne.
Through you, Chair. So, what's the implication of the pipeline through Riverwood?
So, as reported to council earlier this year, the revised pipeline analysis based on the operator using natural gas instead of ethane, effectively that risk is brought way right down. So all of the uplift proposed by the master plan does not create risk that is against the various department guidelines for that gas pipeline project. It's just that existing not restriction per se, but additional, I suppose, check and balance that any sensitive uses within a certain distance from the pipeline will need to be referred to APA. But that's the case already as per that draft planning proposal. But in terms of the density being sought, as discussed in that previous report, the density being sought does not add any additional risk that's inappropriate.
So does it have this 200-meter sensitive development limitation as in Beverly Hills?
Yeah, so that's the planning proposal for that particular amendment to the LEP will apply across the entirety of the risk pipeline, not just Beverly Hills, not just Riverwood, just wherever you're 200 meters from the pipeline.
Okay, so it will be reflected in this master plan as well. Yeah, it will be
flooding. Sorry.
The pipeline limitation, will that become part of this master plan?
Yeah, yes, I suppose. Like I said, the planning proposal to add that additional check and balance for sensitive uses within 200 meters of the gas pipeline will happen irrespective of this master plan. So I guess it does, yes, then apply with this master plan as it does in any area up 200 meters from that gas pipeline.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Rusty. Are there any other questions from the councillors? Can I put this to a vote? All those in favour, please say aye. Anybody against? Thank you. I declare that carried. Next item is E&V 01326, endorsement of Mortdale Local Centre planning proposal for gateway determination and DCP amendment for public exhibition. Can I call for a move and seconder, please? Councillor Jamieson and Councillor Lansbury. Thank you. Before we go to any discussion, Mr. Osti is going to give us another overview. Thanks.
Again, just briefly, this planning proposal and associated DCP amendment is simply to implement council's adopted Mortdale master plan that was adopted in 2023. The only thing that's changed from that time in 2023 until now in terms of changes to the planning controls was reported to council in early 2025 in response to the LMR provisions, a fairly minor change. So the draft planning proposal has been prepared. It's been reported to the local planning panel, who had no further advice or recommendations to give. And as I said, there's a draft DCP amendment there as well, which is to action the council resolution that came out of the adoption of the master plan, that a draft DCP defining the character for this particular area should also be prepared to guide future development in this precinct.
Thanks, Mr. Rusty. Do any councillors have questions or comments? Councillor Lansbury.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I do have a question. I think it's great that we've actually got to this point that the planning proposal is ready to go. Particularly, it's a couple of years ago now that we dealt with the master plan, and it's kind of timely with the LMR. One thing that I noticed within the report was the zoning around the Mortdale RSL was recommended to be E1, I think, which indicates like 4 to 6 stories, which is at complete odds with what the current proposal is for that. So we obviously, as a council, have tailored this to match what the master plan was. But I just wanted to mention, obviously that was one of the Housing Development Authority items, but when I looked it up on the portal yesterday, it said that it had been withdrawn. Yeah.
So yeah, happy to answer that one. So there is, it's complicated. So the HDA is the Housing Delivery Authority. Basically, it's getting permission from the HDA, the authority, to go through an SSD process instead of the usual DA and planning proposal. So they've been given the green light for that, but then they've got to actually do the SSD, the State Significant Development, basically a big DA that's approved by the state instead of council, that can also include changing the planning controls. They've got to go through that process now. The first step in that process is something called SEARS, which stands for State Environment Assessment Regulations. Oh, I shouldn't have tried to remember it. It stands for something, basically the requirements that you have to address in all of your documentation. They went and did that, and then the department said, oh, we gave you the wrong SEARS, please relodge it. That's what we've been told. So it's still happening. It's just a little blip in the road, but that proposal is still progressing as far as we understand, noting that we know as much as basically anyone else, because we don't determine SSDs, they're determined by the state.
So just as a follow-up to that, so even though we're aware of that particular proposal, which is completely out of council's hands anyway, it's still appropriate for us to stick to what the original, what the planning proposal states, which is an EL1, which is completely at odds with what they're proposing, but that is what we're signalled with the master plan, and a state significant development can just run over the top of that anyway, can't it?
Yeah, that's right. I think what's good about this is it really clearly enforces council's vision for the entirety of the centre, obviously including that specific RSL site. What any landowner wants to do through a HDA process will happen.
Any other questions from the councillors? Councillor Jamieson.
Can I speak to it?
Of course, yes, go ahead.
So I'd like to support the endorsement of the Mortdale Local Centre Planning Proposal for Gateway Determination, together with the associated Development Control Plan amended for public exhibition. This proposal represents an important and necessary step in planning for the future of Mortdale, one that recognises both the pressures of growth and our responsibility to shape that growth thoughtfully. It is also the result of years of anticipation, planning and community engagement. We have come a long way since I first joined council in 2022. The scale and form of this master plan is now far more aligned with community expectations, shaped by the hundreds of submissions we received. It reflects a more balanced and considered approach than what was originally proposed. I'm particularly pleased to see the draft DCP progressing to public exhibition. This is about ensuring that Mortdale evolves in a way that remains recognisable, livable and vibrant. I would also like to acknowledge and thank the many community members and stakeholders who contributed to the development of the DCP. It is a privilege to be part of progressing the Mortdale Master Plan to this next stage, and I look forward to seeing the community's feedback as part of this exhibition process. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Jamieson. Any other councillors have questions? We'll go to a vote, and because it's a planning matter, we'll be going around the room. If Ms. McKinley could please take the votes.
Madam Mayor, your vote, please.
For.
Councillor Marnie.
For.
Councillor Allison.
For.
Councillor Anzalotti.
For.
Councillor Arthur.
For.
Councillor Demoski.
For.
Councillor Gow.
For.
Councillor Hayes.
For.
Councillor Jamieson.
For.
Councillor Lansbury.
For.
Councillor Liu.
For.
Councillor Mort.
For.
Councillor Pan.
For.
Councillor Stratokopoulos.
For.
Councillor Wang.
For.
That's 15 votes for, unanimous.
Thank you. I declare that motion carried. Next item is EMV 01426, Mortdale Village Parking. It's from NM 05725. And before we go to any discussion, Mr. Fondras from the staff will give us a small overview. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Look, I'll give you a brief overview about this. Look, the Mortdale Village area is one of the most frequently patrolled areas we have in the LGA. We have Cogger and Hurstville, obviously, as the other two main centres. We also have Oakley. as you see in the report, in the last 12 months, there's been over 248 individual patrols of the Moordale Village area in 12-month period. So that's quite a lot considering the size of the area and the size of the team that we have to operate in that. Given that there's quite a lot of time parking in the area, we try to get down there and have the parking officers out there as a visible presence to turn over parking and encourage people to come into the area. Because we all know if you go into an area and you can't find parking, you tend to drive through and leave it. So by having the parking officers there and a visible presence, it moves those parking rate spaces along for other people to come into the area. So one of the odd things with parking is that we absolutely strive to get zero fines. The idea is that we provide enough deterrent that people actually move before there's the opportunity to give a fine. So in the Moordale area, by giving that visible presence, we hope that we can turn those spaces over before people need to give a fine or be given a fine. One of the recommendations, or one of the suggestions at part of this NOM was looking at options to increase turnover and traffic in the area. Look, parking patrols form one of it, being a visible presence. But if you look at a lot of the CBD areas around that border us, whether it's Randwick, Inner West, those sort of places, they use ticket machines, in-ground sensors, meters, and those sort of things. So these are one of the things that may need to be considered. Look, it's be quite a substantial change from the status quo, but it may need to be something that's considered down the track if we want a consistent approach to a turnover of traffic and the availability of parking. This would then have to look at other CBD areas and whether that's appropriate as well. Might have any questions.
Thank you. Can I firstly call for a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Jamieson. Councillor Ellison. Thank you. Do any councillors have any questions or comments?
I do actually have a question.
Councillor Jamieson.
What sort of money are you talking about with, you know, the parking, whatever sensors and things?
Through the chair, look, it's not my area of expertise. That would have to be something for the assets and infrastructure team to look at potentially, or commercial property. But there are a lot of options out there. Parking meters is one, and as I mentioned, in-ground sensors is another, which is a lot more adaptive, I'd say, put it, so they can integrate with apps and link to people's phones so they know if they're overstaying and they can pay and do all those sort of things. So sorry, I can't answer that one.
Would our Drew Gervais like to comment? Thanks.
No, I guess there's different options that we could look at to increase enforcement, and then there's options that we did look at to increase turnover, including, you know, exploring paid parking. I mean, there is technology out there. It's just whether there's an appetite to introduce paid parking, and whether there's enough appetite to, I suppose, look at measures that could increase enforcement, whether that be through cameras and license plate recognition and things of that nature.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the councillors or any comments? In that case, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour say aye. Anybody against? Thank you. I declare that carried. The next item is EMV 01526, endorsement of affordable housing contribution scheme planning proposal for gateway determination. I might just throw to the Mayor because there's a bit of a change to the agenda.
Yes, if I could move a slight amendment with that, which the staff have, which is that the confidentiality relating to attachment 4 EMV 01526 AHCS feasibility assessment report be removed. So the confidentiality is removed and the attachment published to Council's website publicly.
Okay, that's moved by the Mayor. Can I get a seconder, please?
Yeah.
Councillor Jamieson. Put that to a vote. All those in favour, please say aye.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, any comments or questions on that?
Which one are we doing? The amendment or the?
That's the motion.
Oh. I did have a comment. I'm not quite sure who to direct it to. Firstly, I think it's great that we're actually at this stage of having this policy. My concern is one of the proposals, I think, from the consultants was the 2-year implementation delay from Gazettal to provide market signal and allow developers to adjust feasibilities and acquisition strategies. My concern is that that's kicking it down the road for a number of years. It's not as if the industry wasn't aware that this was coming. This was a requirement by the state government that councils had to have these these schemes, I think is the correct word, in place by 2027. And so looking at the timeline that we've got, that we, if all goes well, we would be in a position as a council to endorse it in about November. Then it's got to go to Gazettal, which could maybe happen 3 months later. Who knows how long is a piece of string, how long that might take. And then that could be this time next year, then it would be 2 more years. And so we could be looking at another 5 or 6 years before we actually see any evidence of affordable housing under this scheme. And I don't know, like, can someone, whether it's you, Director Hill, or someone can explain to me the rationale of why we've got to have this delay when it's not as if this scheme or the requirement for the scheme has just dropped out of space and developers didn't know it was coming. You know, yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, through the chair. So the Hill PDA being our expert consultant that did this study for us, they recommended the 2-year delay just so the market can, I suppose, prepare and adapt to this additional, cost as part of their development construction costings. It's worth noting that study is almost 2 years old now, so although it hasn't been public for 2 years, which is probably important to note. It's a valid point you raise. A planning proposal process is lengthy. From sort of start to finish in terms of the preparation of this affordable housing contribution scheme, and its ultimate finalisation will probably be in or around 2 years in the end. Council staff have put the 2-year delay in because that was the best advice we got from the experts at the time. But that's not to say that that's an immovable direction, I suppose. It's something we could investigate further. It's something that could be pushed back against, but that's why it's in there as it stands.
Can I just add to that? Also, this report is now published. It was published last week. So again, it's not as if it's in confidential and people are not, or the consultant's report will go out. But even the report that we have here on the business paper indicates what council's intentions are. 2% seems like a really good thing, because I know over the years people have talked about 5% and all that sort of thing. And the thing that I like the most about this is that it's affordable housing in perpetuity, not the 15-year return it to the private market, which I never understood the rationale behind that. But it's like, so from now, 12 months, people on notice, developers are on notice that in 12 months' time this might be gazetted, and then if it's 2 more years, that's 3 years. We're constantly hearing that we have a housing crisis. Is there any way we can review that, which without having to go, I don't know, back on an exhibition or something like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to delay it any further. I just sort of feel that we're in a situation where it's really, housing is crucial, particularly affordable housing. And to delay it seems that it goes against all of the directions of the state government anyway. You know, we're hearing from the Premier and the Housing and the Planning Minister constantly that councils are really dragging the chain and they've got to lift their game. And this to me seems like a massive handbrake on something that could include, and obviously it's only going to apply to apartments, units. It's not going to be townhouses and freestanding dwellings and stuff like that. So it's a specific market, it's units, and people who are developing, or developers who are working in that area, they would have those numbers in their head already, surely. That, I don't know, I just think that we need to find a way to progress it rather than to sit on it for potentially 5 years before we see our first affordable housing apartment, is my concern.
Yeah, the director's going to address it now. Thank you.
Is it possible to make an amendment?
Through you, Chair. Yes, it's possible to make an amendment. The reality is the Department of Planning are the ones who control councils putting through planning proposals. There will need to be an element of delay. As planning proposals come in, they come in on a certain date, controls change. You can't just have a developer with an application in there and all of a sudden the next day they get a determination of 2% on top. So there'll need to be an element of delay that goes up to 2 years. That's on the advice we've got. It's open to council of a mind if they want to bring it forward. I would suggest going to 0, somewhere in between, for the purposes of public exhibition. Because a number of other councils are doing this, there's a mix of ones who've got through pretty quickly, and there's others that have had a bit more of a longer delay. We need to signal the market. They're well aware of it coming. The state haven't put it through in their own right, and individual councils are left to do it. So as council who are hearing the concerns of the Minister and housing supply and the like, this is a key document for us. It will take some time. You're absolutely spot on. If you're of the mind to make an amendment here, then I would suggest it's not to 0. It comes in on this day. There's still an element of delay, whether it's a 6 month, a year, or 18 months, being some increments I've just plucked out for ease.
Can I just ask, if we were able to do it, to amend it so that it was from gazettal, is that possible?
Through Chair, is it possible? It's possible. The more pragmatic approach we've chosen is to give the Department of Planning a document that has the best chance to get through, because we are going to get resistance or submissions from the developers, for example, that group. That resistance has been offset, or those submissions have been offset in other instances. Basically, here's the lead at time. So it's possible, but you're likely to get a right of reply from the department via the gateway determination. Is that the worst thing, that you get told that you don't get what you want? It's not the worst thing. I don't think a 0 day delay is as most pragmatic way forward of getting this through in a timely manner.
Do we give a date? Like just pick a random date. What's 2 years from when it started?
But my preferred option would be just from gazettal. It comes into effect, so that if somebody is gazetted on the 1st of March 2027, for argument's sake, from the 2nd of March, anybody who puts in a DA or is considering doing it for a multi-unit dwelling has to consider the 2% component. I just don't see. I don't know if you can hear me. Given the pressing need and the fact that it's taken us this long to get to this point, I really wish that we could not drag the chain, and the department could turn around and say, no, you've got to allow 2 years from gazettal, but they also might not, because it is, again, it's not something that has just dropped out of nowhere. The industry knew it was coming because the state government was a state government requirement, wasn't it? So, that's just my view. I don't know the right way to do it, but if there's a way of doing it, I'd be really supportive of that.
Can I make a comment if I can? I think we have to be cautious. Of course, we all want to see more affordable housing, and this is one vehicle to do that by collecting money to contribute to that. But the opposite side of the coin to that is that it's actually making development more expensive. We don't want to make Georges River unattractive to developers to develop, because then it's counterproductive of the original objective, which is to get more homes built and for developers to be developing. So this levy, I guess, is what it's a 2% levy on the cost of the development, is going to make it more expensive to develop. We do want development to occur to increase the housing supply. So I just think we should be cautious about being all in on just getting the affordable housing element, because it may then cannibalize the supply of housing in Georges River overall. So I would take a cautious approach personally, because we want to still be attractive to developers to develop in Georges River, so we do get the development and the new housing that we all need, and the affordable housing is only going to be achieved if we have the development occurring. So we have to make sure that we're not unattractive. I don't know. I'll ask the director if my take on that is correct or not. That's just my view. I'll ask for your comment in relation to that.
Through you, Chair. Look, the reason I can comment, development's expensive. Another levy inhibits development, full stop, and development choices. They're the market choices that are out there. So it's very hard to disagree with that. The housing crisis is right here in front of us. We don't want to have too many impediments, but the reality is costs drive market decisions. And as I reiterated, it's up to councils to, it's a pretty simple amendment, Councillor Lansbury, in terms of if you want to put that forward, you just have an amendment that says you don't want to do it in 2 years from Gazettal, and there's no delay. That's easily worded up. There are councils who have had that done, but they may well have had some different expert advice than what we've got, which suggested 2 years.
May I ask a question? So if we do it, if you put 0 time, and then it goes to Gateway, and then they say, no, you got to go back. It will like make it longer, or will they just come back and say, no, you got to do 2 years?
Through most pragmatically, the Gateway determination is a document that we receive, list of conditions. It comes back and says you can't have 0, you have to have 2 years. In my view, that would not be consistent with council's resolution if that was the case, and I'll put it back to council for you guys for councils to accept that, and then we move on. So a small delay, not a significant one.
Okay. And the other thing is, I think with the like every council, when we're at the local government, they've all had that. They've had it for years. It's pretty much as you were saying. That's my impression. Maybe we need to check on it, because I get the feeling that probably one of the only councils that don't have one. I think because we're not.
All our neighbours are in a similar stage to us. Sutherland, Bayside and Canterbury Bankstown. City of Sydney have had one for a long time. Waverley have had one for quite some time, and some other eastern suburbs councils have one. But no, I definitely wouldn't say all or most have them. But now the state in their draft region plan has said everyone has to have one within the next couple of years. So you will see more and more councils exhibiting and implementing these types of schemes with different rates and different approaches and different implementation approaches as well.
Thanks, Mr. Rusty.
Can I just ask a question? Sorry. Sure. Councillor Lansbury, you weren't actually asking for 0 days though, were you? In a possible amendment?
Just asking for, instead of a 2-year delay from Gazettal to signal to the market that it just once it's gazetted that it's in effect, because otherwise there is another delay. Like that's effectively 3 years from now before it would apply, and by the time we actually saw any physical properties built, it would be 5 years away. And in the meantime, people will be sleeping in their cars and pitching tents in parks, because housing is not going to get any better until we take some drastic action. And I get about scaring the horses and all the rest of it, but this is a state government requirement. Councils are constantly being smashed by saying, "Oh, they're the problem. They're delaying things." Well, to me, this is a delaying thing. It might just be super cautious and all the rest of it, but we're being bold by saying, we're not going to have it for 15 years before it goes back to the private market. It's going to be in perpetuity. I think our job is to make bold decisions, and honestly, that would be my preference. And even if we don't do it tonight, maybe people just need to think about it. So it's from Gazettal, which would probably be in 12 months' time, according to the timeline that we've gotten. So in, let's say, March 2027 rather than March 2029, which is forever away. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I think if we want to support the cause for more affordable housing, be bold and set precedent. So I think if we put an amendment up tonight, I think that sets a clear message to our community that we are here to support the people who need it the most.
So Councillor Jamieson or Lansbury, would like to put an amendment up for discussion?
I don't know what the words would be. Basically inverting whatever they say there about the 2 years. Because it's not actually within the recommendation, it's just within the body of the report. That would be part E. That scheme comes into effect upon Gazettal. I don't know, something like simple like that.
to the director.
Councillor, that's as simple as it needs to be, because I have delegation to make minor amendments to the document, and you've got to give a direct delegation to adjust the planning proposal to bring into effect from Gazette Office. It's as easy as it needs to be. The planning proposal will get amended based on that resolution.
Councillor Arthur. So, Catherine.
I was gonna suggest language, but I'm happy to second that amendment as it's written.
Thank you.
Look, do you want to go? Help making up the resolution just that it's amended
Yes, so the staff are just working on an amendment now.
Okay, the amendment reads that the affordable housing contribution scheme takes effect upon gazettal of the planning proposal.
Okay, can I just ask Mr. McKinley to read that amendment out again, please?
That the affordable housing contribution scheme takes effect upon gazettal of the planning proposal and the proposal is amended as such.
Thank you. Can I ask Madam Mayor and Councillor Jamison if that amendment is acceptable?
Yes, unacceptable.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. In that case, I'll put the motion as amended, and we'll go in the room, please.
Sorry,
Councillor Wayne.
So, I object to the amendment. Can I speak against it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just briefly, yeah. So actually, I concur with what the mayor commented. So you need to have a house before you have affordable rent. So we just put in 2 years grace period to allow the developers, the investors, so they can have a plan. I don't know the life cycle to build a big apartment or whatever, but at current climate, so I got lots of. I think the sentiment is very expensive to developer in Georges River. There are lots of reluctant investment in Georges River. So this 2% for the contribution is already another 2% from taken away from the bottom line. I don't know what their margin is. 2% should not be a small number. So it's already a burden. And if they, I don't know, they borrow whatever money, and the interest is going up and everything. It's not good for the investment for the economy. But of course, I also support the affordable house. I just cautious about any emotional decision. It has to be economic, has to be rational, has to be judged by determined by the numbers and analysis. It's arbitrary number: 2 years, 1 year, 5 years, 0 years. It's just somebody put our hand at the committee meeting and then we take away what the staff has decided. I just feel like we are rushed, so I'm against it.
Thanks, Councillor. Any other comments from the councillors? Okay, I'll put the motion as it was amended. And we'll go around the room for that one, please. Yes, we can.
Madam Mayor?
For.
Councillor Marnie?
For.
Councillor Allison?
For.
Councillor Anzalotti?
For.
Councillor Arthur?
For.
Councillor Demoski?
For.
Councillor Gow?
For.
Councillor Hayes?
For.
Councillor Jamison?
For.
Councillor Lansbury?
For.
Councillor Liu?
For.
Councillor Mort?
For.
Councillor Punt?
For.
Councillor Stratokopoulos?
For.
Councillor Wang?
Against.
It's 14 votes.
Thank you. I declare that carried. The last item tonight is ENV 01626, adoption of Cars Bush Park and Todd Park Master Plan and Plan Management. And before we go ahead with this, I'll ask for a mover and seconder.
Mr. Chair, could I move it with an amendment?
Oh, sorry, Madam Mayor's moving it and Councillor Mott seconding it. So if you can go ahead, please, the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. So I believe the staff have the recommendation, the amended recommendation. It's to part A will read that council adopt the Cars Bush Park and Todd Park Master Plan Attachment 1 and Plan of Management Attachment 2 in accordance with Section 40 of the Local Government Act 1993 and Section 3.236 of the Crown Land Management Act 2016, and the next part is the addition, subject to the following. Part 1, adding an option 4 on page 9 of the master plan, which states upgrade and retain the existing men shed as a standalone facility at its current location.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I might just ask Mr. Rosti to give us an overview on things. Oh, sorry, anyone would like to second Madam Mayor's amendment? Councillor Mort, you okay with that? Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Rosti, thank you.
Thank you, through the chair, very briefly. So at council's meeting in May last year, council endorsed the draft plan of management and master plan. Since then, we've gone out on exhibition. We received 73 submissions, 33 of them written and 40 online surveys. We also had a successful community drop-in day where we received some further feedback. There's been some minor changes made to the plan of management and master plan as a result of that community feedback, and that's detailed within the report. And this report is seeking endorsement for it to be finalised and then for us to go to the Crown for their final approval as well.
Thank you. Do any councillors have any questions or comments? Councillor Demoski.
Through to you, Mr. Chair. I'm just seeking clarification on item 6, cars, parks, flats, amenities, and main shed replacement buildings. It says investigate in liaison with sporting groups options to replace sporting and park amenities at cars, park, flats. Refer to item 4, and item 4 it states that install park seating, including some shaded areas around the sports field and other street furniture. I'm just seeking clarification that before the amenities are replaced, there will be the council will liaise with the sporting groups there to find the best possible solution for the amenities.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, so for a lot of the items in the master plan, obviously very high level and fairly flexible. There'll be further stakeholder consultation and community consultation on those specific projects when they're actually implemented.
So there will be further consultation with the sporting groups, so that's all done.
No, there will be.
There will be.
Yeah, because this is a draft still. It's not an endorsed master plan yet.
Yeah, and the point after that about the men's shed, that's a separate point, and the actual sporting amenities is, and we move the amendment on that. Yeah.
Yeah, again through the chair. For lack of a better word, it's sort of a non-committal part of the master plan where there's multiple options for that particular site at the moment. For both what the men's shed has at the moment as well as the sporting facility there. There's multiple options with another one added now in as part of the amendment made.
Yeah. Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any other councillors have questions or comments?
I have a question. If I could just get a comment from the director or the manager in relation to the placement of the return and earn facility on the Todd Park side. I understand that it's not a feature of the master plan. Can I just have a comment in relation to if council was of a mind to want to relocate that, or is that the best place for it? You know, is that something that can be done independent of this master plan?
Yep, through the chair. I'm not familiar with the history of that return and earn when it was put in place and what the approval processes were to do that. But that particular feature of the park at the moment is of sort of an operational nature whereby the plan of management, the master plan, doesn't need to specifically allow or disallow anything. That's sort of an operational matter that can be decided at a future date depending on the needs of council and the community.
Thank you. I might just speak quickly, if I could, to the amendment. The amendment that has been added in there is looking at the future of the facility where the men's shed is currently located, which is the building next to the car park and next to the pool. And there's been a lot of representation from members of the men's shed, plus in the submissions received on this master plan and plan of management from supporters of the men's shed. They have a desire to continue their operations at their current site into the future, and their desire is that it would be upgraded and expanded. Myself and the general manager and the director of community and culture and manager went down to the men's shed at their invitation on Friday last week to see their operations in practice. They're very they strongly wish to stay where they are because it's obviously it's a great location with a great aspect. They provide a lot of support for people who might be suffering from mental health, and it provides a great connection for the community. And we saw that on Friday, and they had hosted a barbecue, and there was a lot of members there in attendance. So they're providing a really good service to the community through the work they're doing with the woodworking and the men's shed activities, but also through the community connection. The addition of part 1 there that we have added in there is purely saying that it's an option that they may be able to stay in the current location where they are, but it's not committing council to that. And I think this is a future decision of council, whether the best place for the men's shed is to stay there or the other alternatives as well. So I don't think that this master plan is determining the decision. It's keeping the options open for a future decision to be made, which would be done in consultation with the men's shed. But commitment from council is 100%. We value the work that the men's shed provides to the community, and they will be housed and homed by Georges River.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Do any other councillor have questions or comments? Okay, I'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Anybody against? I declare that carried. And there being no other business on the agenda, I declare the meeting closed at 8:18 p.m. Thanks, everyone.